Black Friday is only one time a year, so you gotta take advantage of it. Like a lot of you are at Best Buy trying to get a 72-inch flat screen for 40% off when you could be getting Chambers products for 40% off with code BLACKFRY. 40% off everything, whether it's individual courses, drum kits, loop kits, MIDI kits, and the online class. This is only gonna be up for a few days, and a lot of you ask me, yo, are you doing any Black Friday sales? Yep. This is it. Don't miss out. Now is the perfect time to get that brand new Master a Melody course that I just put out this month. Over an hour of content going in depth about melody creation, going over a ton of techniques that are going to help you and improve the way that you make your melodies. Just saying, now is really a great time to take advantage of all of these great products. But anyway, what's good, everyone? It's Chambers from chambersmixedit.com. Hope everyone's doing well, having a good holiday. Today we're going into the deep sea of chord progressions. I'm going to teach you how to make an R&B chord progression from scratch, and we're going to be going over every single detail. So let's get into it. We're in Cubase today, and now we're staring at this blank page before us. Open up the dirty window. Sorry, but we are staring at a blank canvas piano roll right here. We're going to start with C. I have it at a slow tempo for R&B. We're at 100, so it's like I have a nice Rhodes keyboard sound loaded up. So starting with this C, I'm going to build out a C major triad chord, right? It's called a triad. Why? Because if we really hack into the mainframe and look in here, we see 1, 2, 3 notes. 3. Tri means what? If you look at a tricycle, how many wheels does a tricycle have? Hold on, let me do a quick Google search. Is a tricycle even a thing? Okay, there we go. If we really take a look, now it took me to it. Black Friday deals on tricycles. Anyone who's interested, look, I know it's tempting, but don't go for it because my Black Friday deals are much better. But anyway, as we look at this beautiful tricycle here, we really zoom in on it. We have 1, 2, 3 wheels. When you think of a triangle, it has how many points? 1, 2, 3. Tri means 3. So if we're building out a triad chord, it means the chord has 3 notes. In this case, we have a major chord. So I'm going to turn this triad into a 7th. I'm just going to do 1 chord per bar. So each of these sections here are just going to have 1 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord. So moving on from that, I'm going to show you a little chord trick. We're going to connect these bottom 2 notes, this E and this C. And after that, I'm going to reverse engineer a diminished chord. So diminished chords, very common in R&B music because they're great chords for adding tension in your chord progression because the notes are very close together. I'll go here to this A and to this F sharp. This is what a diminished chord looks like. You see how there's 2 spaces in between each note, right? It looks very different from a major triad side by side. These notes are more close together. And then we have this E on top because I just extended it from this chord. Now that sounds a little weird at first. So what we're going to do is called an inversion. And that's when you take a note or 2 or 3, however many notes that you want, and you move them up or down 1 octave. So in a lot of my R&B chord progressions, I like to take the 2 middle notes of the chord and invert them up an octave. So we're going to take this C and this A. We're going to move up 1 octave. On Windows, I'm hitting Control and the up arrow. On Mac, I'm not going to tell you because screw you. So moving on to the next chord, we're going to do something called a dominant 7th chord. Ooh. If you're like me right now and you're starting your R&B chord progression with a major chord, to make that dominant 7th, what I'm going to do, since we're starting here at C, I go 1 note under that to the B here. And then I'll build it out like I'm doing a B major triad. And I'll continue like I'm doing a B major 7th chord. Except we're going to take that 7th and flatten it. So flattening it means we're just going to drop it down 1 semitone. And now we have a dominant 7th chord. Another simple way to do that is just take this first major chord that we have, bring it over. We're going to hit shift and the down arrow to drop it down 1 semitone. So there's that B again. And we're going to take that 7th and flatten it. Now this is going to add even more tension to it because this alone, if you remember, this chord by itself is a diminished chord. So if we get rid of that B, this is a diminished chord. Remember those 2 spaces in between each note? But when we add that B, it becomes the dominant 7th chord. So now that we had 2 tense chords in a row that both involve diminished chords, we're going to want to resolve that because now we're at the end of the chord progression. I know that leading note or that top note of the chord, that main tone that you hear, I want that next note to be a B. I'm going to again reverse engineer this chord. I go so much more in depth about how to build these chords, how to build them forwards, backwards, sideways, how to identify them just by looking at them, and the best situations to use each type of chord, all in the online class, chamberscourses.com. And I keep telling you, man, that 40% off is not going to claim itself. I'm going to turn this E minor triad into an E minor seventh. So with this chord, again, doesn't really sound like it fits in with the rest of the chord progression until we bring in Mr. Inversion. In the last one, I showed you that you could invert the two middle notes of the chord, right? But now this time, I'm going to take the two outer notes, this D note and this E note, and instead of inverting up, we're going to go down one octave now, just to show you that you could really do both ways. Sorry. Beautiful. This chord sounds like we made it home. It was a long journey. We're safe now. You know, it's like that, the feel good chord. So we have this lovely chord progression, but we really want to thicken it up. I'm going to take this C, this root note of this C major seventh, the first chord that we did. I'm going to hold shift, drag it out, drag it back in. That will duplicate the note. Then we're going to invert it down one octave, controlling the down arrow. So now we made an octave copy, right? An octave is from this C to this C. We made an octave copy of that note, except this one's in a lower octave. So it's going to give us more of a bass sound and really fill up the chord progression. Right here, it just sounds like a chord, but to make it sound more full, we add that root note copy. And then we go up to that F sharp, which is already pretty far away from that chord. So that's working with the same purpose as this C. But then we come over here to that dominant seventh. And that one sounds a little thin, right? So we're going to take that B, again, shift, drag out, drag back in, and do an inversion down one octave. Thickens up that chord. And then again, that E is already down here, so we don't need to do anything for that. So there's pretty much our chord progression. What I'm going to do is take the whole thing and duplicate it over to make it 8 bars instead of 4 bars, because I really want to show you another trick in the second half. So I'll hit Control B. That will duplicate it right over. I'm going to cut this chord back until we just have half a bar right here. So we're going to do a chord for this amount of time and another chord for this amount of time. So 2 more chords to fit in at the end. If you've ever watched any of my older videos, you know I really love 2-5-1 chord progression. 2-5-1. Remember those numbers. Our 1 is where we started off with right here. So this first chord is a C major 7th chord. Now, the root note of that first chord is a C, right? That's where we start. That's the root note of that first chord. That's going to be our 1. So in the scale of C, whether it's minor or major, if you count up, there's going to be 7 notes before it becomes an octave, right? So let's go up the C minor scale. I'll pull it up for you. So just count with me, right? C is 1, D is 2, D sharp is 3, F is 4, G is 5, G sharp is 6, A sharp is 7. And then we repeat again an octave up at C. We could do the same thing with the C major scale. Ready? Let's count. C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then we repeat again an octave up at the next C. Now, what do those two scales have in common? If we count up in both the C minor and the C major scale, C is our 1, D is our 2, F is the 4, and G is the 5. We already have the 1. It's C. D is 2. G is 5. To make this 2-5-1, after this chord, we want to do the 2, which is D, and then the 5, which is G. 2-5-1. These are the notes that I want to build the chord on top of. So these are the bottom notes. So I'm going to bring them down an octave, and we'll go from there. Now I'm going to build out a chord from this D note. So right here we have a D minor 7th. And I'm going to do that inversion technique with it again, where I invert the 2 middle notes, this A and this F, up 1 octave. And here's the coolest thing. I can take this same chord and duplicate it over by holding shift and dragging. And you could use that same chord 2 times. Only one minor difference that I'm going to make. I'm going to bring this C, instead of having it hit twice, I'm going to have it go down a semitone, because that's going to sound better with the chord progression. Dun, dun. And there's the 2-5-1. So let's listen. great. So yeah, there's me walking you through an R&B chord progression from scratch, starting with basic chords like triads. We advanced those into sevenths and we made them even more complex with inversions. We used diminished chords, dominant seventh chords. You learn more about counting up the scale with the 2-5-1 chord progression. So again, if you really want to go into detail about everything about building these chords, how to identify them, when to use them, everything from the fundamentals to the advanced techniques, I truly recommend to you my online class, chamberscourses.com. And if you want to learn more about creating melodies on top of chord progressions like these, then my brand new Master of Melody course is really going to help you out with that. I'll leave all the links down below in the comment section and in the description for you. I keep reminding you of these things because I really want you to take advantage of this Black Friday sale. I have so many great products that have changed hundreds of lives, and I hope I can help you too. So please take advantage of the Black Friday sale. The code is BlackFry. Get anything you need for 40% off. Now is the time to do it. The deal is only going to last for a few days. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck in your own music making. Let me know what videos you guys want to see in the future. It's Chambers from chambersmixedit.com, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.